Welcome, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to SM Enlightenment Radio or watching on SM Enlightenment TV. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ayana.
And we are two healthy chicks providing simple life hacks on this journey to healthy living.
All right, Jenny, what's in your mug?
So I am going old school tonight. I don't know if you can see, I'm actually have some cranberry mixed in here with my, I know, very old school. That was probably even before your time. But yeah, so cranberry and mixed in with my detox tea. So I'm doing a double.
Got it.
How about you? What's in your mug?
Ironically, I am doing a double as well, but mine is of the same peppermint black, and I needed a very large mug, so someone's going to get some free marketing tonight. Oh, well.
You're
welcome.
That's awesome. I love peppermint black. I had that last week, so that's good stuff. You're going to be well taken care of tonight.
Yeah.
Ooh,
soothing.
That was a good lead in, huh? Well taken care of. You like how I did that?
I didn't even catch that. Yes, very, very well done, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you. Because yes, we are talking about self-care. So I think it's interesting that I feel like there's a lot of sentiment out there that self-care can be seen as selfish. Or just why is it that we don't do self-care? Or it's hard to do, maybe. Sometimes we do it.
I think that, and we'll go into like some of our survey responses because we did take some polls, but I think there's really almost some confusion about exactly what self-care is. And I didn't really think that was the case until we got those responses. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting, obviously knowing we were going to talk about this tonight and just even before coming on here, I just had this I was overcome with gratitude just about just even having this conversation. And, I just think we are blessed in so many ways. Just the fact that we can take time to think about this and discuss self-care. What is it? Why don't we do it? What is holding us back from doing it? How it can help us. Just even having this conversation to be able to talk about self-care, I think is just a blessing. The fact that we are at that place where we can discuss that, we have choices and we can make them with our time. So I think, I don't know, I just thought that was just an interesting thought that I had. And speaking of time, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people don't, right? That we just have so much, it's just another thing on our to-do list and it just doesn't make it to the priority. We're moms, we're dads, we're students, we're employees, we're entrepreneurs, like the list goes on and on, right?
Exactly. And that's a really unique way of looking at it. I don't think I ever would have looked at it like that. I think, that's one of those silver lining things. For me, I think I know I would have looked at it like we are just so bogged down that now we don't have a choice but to look at self-care. But that is a much sunnier way.
Sunny disposition. That's a really good point you bring up though. And I do think a lot of people see it as a luxury, not as a necessity. And so, and you flip the switch on that and say, no, like this has become a necessity now. We need to do this. We don't have any other options. This must be a part of what we do, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's similar to the concept of putting the oxygen mask on yourself before helping others. And, you hear that so often, but
Yes.
you hear it so often because it's such a vital concept. You cannot help anyone else if you're not able to help yourself, or if you don't take care of yourself first. So then, that kind of leads to the whole, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like there's so many different sayings about this, but at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else, at least as well as you would like to take care of them.
So true. And and that's another thing. I was thinking about that, and you're right. We hear that phrase, we know that. I mean, that's not the first time I'm sure any of our listeners, anyone, hanging out with us tonight, have,
We've
we've
probably
all
said
heard
it a couple times.
that. I'm sure. But I was thinking about it, and why is it that we have to remind ourselves of that? Like, I feel like we're like, okay, I got it. I need to do self-care. It is important. But then, like, we get all, it's kind of like you go to any seminar, and you get all excited, and you learn this, and then to put it into practice, and then you might
And
do
then a
great
week
for a day.
later.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. If you're lucky
Like,
to make it through a week,
"Oh."
right? Yes, we need that reminder. We need that accountability partner. We need that. Um, we need to make it a habit, right? Habits, just are so key.
Definitely. So, we're thinking about like, what do people think about self care? What are their feelings about it? How do they do it? Do they do it? And, I researched a little bit just before like we really dove into this
You
topic.
got some interesting
I
responses.
did get
Yes.
some responses, but the reason I even went that route was because looking at what was available online, I didn't really agree with it. Like online, it was saying, oh, men are just now getting into the self care routine and, they're slowly coming to the table. And that was so many different articles.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm thinking about the very many social media posts of men getting pedicures and they're just out there living their lives, and I'm like, okay, what is the difference here? So that's exactly why I started surveying people. So, thank you to everyone who I have harassed
Yes.
over the last 24
Thank
hours.
you.
Much appreciated. They call for applause. um
Yes.
and
It
ironically, so I did get more responses from women than I did men, but not overwhelmingly more. Like it was,
was pretty
I got
even.
10 responses from men, 13 from women. But the responses were still split exactly down the middle. 66% of each, men and women, partake in self-care. So
Mhm.
there the men are not slow to the table by any stretch of the imagination. And as a matter of fact, when it came down to the actual responses and the types of responses, the men were the only ones who didn't ask clarifying questions. It was
That I thought was fascinating.
it was
Yes.
either a yes or a no, like emphatically yes, and this is what I do, or no. This one, actually, I am going to read this one verbatim. Because this was a no from a man. And he said, I'm a man. We don't self care. We take care of everyone else. I'm like, wait a minute. That's our line.
I was gonna say that's what the women say. Like, what?
That's
You take
mama's
care of
line. Like,
everyone
what are you talking
else?
about?
Like, Mama don't have time to do self-care. Are you kidding
Exactly.
me?
It was like one of those cartoon blink, 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 blink
Yeah.
comments where I'm like,
Yes.
what now? So I said,
Yes.
okay, great, thank you. But yeah, that was very interesting. That's
Fascinating.
typically what you expect to hear from a woman, but it was very
Mhm.
eye-opening.
Yeah.
The women, however, asked many clarifying questions, and the top clarifying question was, what do you consider to be self-care? And my
Yeah.
response, just because I wanted raw answers, my response to everyone was whatever you consider it to be. And I know
Mhm.
that was probably very frustrating to people. So now you guys understand why. But I want to know, what do you do if you do anything? And what do you consider to be self-care? So some of the responses were great, the typical shopping, massages, which I emphatically am all for. We'll get
Mhm.
to that later
Yes. Yes, we will.
on. Prayer, Bible study, long drives, going out, or even just having a conversation with a close friend. So these are all things that are typical things that you would find on a self-care list. But then there were responses that made me question, okay, do we need to clarify the difference between self-care and self or emotional management? Because if we're
Mm.
talking about washing our hair or, taking a shower, like one person responded, does taking a shower without interruption count? And I'm like, Does it count to you?
But I was thinking about that though, and I do think it depends. I think your definition of self-care depends on the stage of life you're in as well.
Yeah,
Because I think back to when my kids were babies and teeny tiny, and it, you're right. Like self-care to me was I actually got a shower today. I actually washed my hair. I look like a human being today. Like those were like I actually got 2 hours of straight sleep. I mean, that was that. So I think your definition of self-care does change in the different stages of life you're in as well. So,
Yeah, honestly, I think I would still challenge you, Jenny. Like, if you're thinking, yes, there are things that, and I can, default to my sister who is currently in this boat right now, with two children, both under
mhm.
two. Um, so she and her husband, they responded to the survey also. I won't say what their answers were because now I've already said who it was. But I feel like, if we are talking about, yes, I got a shower today and it wasn't interrupted, is that really self care? Or is that just self management? Like we were able to do something that is fundamental.
Mhm.
Like this isn't really pouring into my bucket. I don't know. That's just, I guess that comes down to opinion.
It does, and it is interesting. So another aspect of that I thought was kind of fascinating too, especially from the answers that you got from your survey, and also looking at our list of things that we're going to talk about later in the segment. But it was interesting. I agree, like that differentiation between what you consider self-care. I feel like at what point does self-care done on in habit become a habit, and then it's just a part of your healthy habits that you do. And so I think that there is a progression there of at first it seems like a luxury, and sometimes we define like the self-care as a luxury, which I know we already kind of talked about a little bit. But then because like one of the things that one of the men said was like vitamins and zinc and elderberry, and so yes, that's self-care, agreed. You're doing things to take care of your body. But I don't know if I personally would have categorized that as self-care, because like that's what I do to have a healthy body. Like that, like I take my vitamins because I want to be healthy. So
Mhm. I
but
think
it's
that's a
interesting, but it's
literal interpretation. Like you are
right.
literally taking care of yourself. But this topic that we are discussing tonight is more about how are you pouring into your spiritual, emotional, like feel good bucket,
Mm.
And yeah, technically, and I was very proud that response came from one of my older brothers, elderberry.
Oh,
Like,
hey, I know.
okay,
I have to say it was very good. I'm like elderberry zinc, like this is good
exactly. I'm
stuff.
like,
Like
oh, I do
yes,
that every
maybe
day.
they've been listening to us, Ayana. They were listening to other episodes. We can only
Secretly
hope, right?
spying. He's a secret fan, and I don't know
There
it.
you go. We'll have him on as a guest sometime.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that again goes to that differentiation. Is it self-care? Is it self-management? And I think that once I don't think there's any answer. Everybody's answer is going to
Right.
be different. But
Yep.
I think once you as an individual get clear on the difference between the two, I think that you'll be able to be, I know for me anyway, I'll be able to be more intentional about what I'm doing for self-care in the
Hmm.
figurative sense as opposed to the literal sense.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting. I just have it. I actually happen to have it here. Just reading. We're reading Emotional Intelligence 2.0 right now by Travis Bradbury and Jean Greaves. Graves, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but it just made me think of like one of the things they talk about there is self-awareness, and I think self-care has a lot to do with that. Like those things that you were talking about, self-awareness. Um, Being aware of what you personally need to be able to be fully and completely present in every situation you're in, to be, if you're a mom, to be the best mom, if you're a wife, to be the best wife, to be attentive to others, whatever your role is, if you're a husband, if you're a dad, if you're a friend, a daughter, a son, and just whatever those roles are that you have in your life, that self-awareness to be able to bring your best to every situation and fully be present in every situation that you're in. And then knowing yourself well enough what you need to be able to do that. So if it is more exercise, if it is having that spa day, if it is just having some quiet time to yourself, it is having your vitamins every day, whatever that looks like to you. But I think that self-awareness piece is a really critical part of it too.
Yeah, agreed. And now that you bring it up, I'm wondering if those thoughts actually came from the book. Because, I did the audio
Yes,
version and
right.
I do it on my walks. Like I listen to the, professional development books, personal development, and I'm on
Mm-hmm.
the same book. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering, you're absolutely right. My thoughts about this very well may have come from just hearing that. And we talked about that a couple of episodes ago. Like, what do you
Yeah.
hear? Yeah. So obviously, there's truth to that.
And that's interesting because, it didn't even occur to me, which is kind of funny for me because how much I am a nerd and love like words and stuff. Like, it didn't even occur to me to define self care for tonight. So,
Yeah.
like, we did that with several other things in past episodes, but that's so funny with this conversation that we're having, just where that comes out.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to that. And again, we've talked a lot about like self care looks different for every person. So, maybe even the definition of self care is slightly different for people. Well, and actually, so okay, so I take that slightly back. Wait, just kidding. Let me look at my notes. I did do a little bit of research.
I was gonna
How
say,
funny!
I
You're
like
like, girl.
that. I was like organic because,
Oh my
it'd be
gosh.
nice to kind of just figure out where we're headed. But yeah, go ahead.
So that's hilarious. So look at this. I did do a tiny bit of research, but not per se a definition. But okay. So so this is a quote from Diane Barth, who wrote an article in Psychology Today. So she said, quote, self-compassion then is all about balance, not perfection. And there are many ways to get to that balance. Mindfulness practices, psychotherapy, and conversations with friends, spouses, partners, colleagues, parents, and even your children can all help you gain perspective. So I do think that is very interesting because it does, like we said, it does look very different for other people. And I think also it's not only what you do, but I think it can also include things like what you don't do, like say no to invitations or requests when you feel overwhelmed, or always ask for help when you need it, and reminding yourself that it's okay to feel the emotions that you're currently feeling. I know we dove into that in the Emotional Intelligence 2.0. That was actually something that stood out to me, was feeling discomfort and really pushing through that and understanding the root of why am I feeling this, instead of going for that piece of chocolate just to make yourself feel better, or procrastinating or whatever it is. But like, why do I feel lonely, or why do I feel rushed, or why do I feel awkward or whatever, and understanding that, then you understand yourself better and then you can understand better what you need.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it made me think of like the many conversations that I have with my team at work. Um, we meet twice a week and we often talk about how overloaded their plates are. And I
Mm,
try to help them dig through and, what are you saying yes to all the time that is
mm,
not a necessity? There's actually a project that one of them is involved in right now. And I literally sent the message this morning. That is on the last rung of your like priority ladder. Like,
mm.
seriously, what are we always saying yes to, and what things do we need to move off that list? I agree. That absolutely has plays a big role in
Mm.
self care and how you're caring for yourself. Absolutely. Self care is not selfish.
Yeah. And that, so I think that's also a combination then of self-awareness, which we're talking about, but also knowing your purpose. So for general in life, knowing what your purpose is, but then also, which could be a whole nother segment, or a whole nother episode.
Mhm.
But also then at work, like knowing what your goals are, right? And just having those. And so just thinking about the goals and the purpose. I'm reading Drop the Ball by Tiffany Dufu. And I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Dufu, Dufu, is the spelling of her last name. And but she talks about that and like being very clear on your purpose in life. And if those things, these activities don't fall under my purpose, then kindly and graciously say no to those things. They might be very, very good. And I know that was a hard lesson for me to learn way early on. Early marriage, young kids, super involved in my church, say yes to everything, want to do everything, but just really getting clear on what is my purpose, what falls under those, my talents and my gifts, and saying yes to the great things and saying no to the good things that don't necessarily serve what my purpose is.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I'll actually throw myself on the fire here. So I am not feeling that great. And I haven't been for almost 2 weeks now. And it's no secret, like I've discussed this many times in the past. Like I have sickle cell. And sickle cell affects people very differently. My triggers specifically are like, I would say in order of importance: stress, number one; lack of sleep, probably number two; lack of hydration, number three. And I've kind of been circling around those three the last couple of weeks,
Mm.
and my body is
Mhm.
just like, all right, you're done.
Mhm.
So tonight, this is, the glasses and everything. This is why you get this Ayana tonight. Um,
But you still look beautiful.
oh, thanks, Jenny. You always know how to make a girl feel good.
Just speaking the truth.
We've talked about like so many things that I am not doing right now over the
Mhm.
past 4 to 5 episodes. Hydration, huge. And I actually started a drink challenge in my group about 4 or 5 days ago, mainly because of that, but I was hearing it like in my circle as well. Um, People are just not getting as much hydration as they want. And for sickle cell
Mhm.
specifically, it it's very important, because if you know anything about, like, basically sickle cell is named for the shape of our blood cells. A sickle
Mhm.
is like a crescent moon.
Yep.
Because of the shape, like they're shaped like that because of a lack of oxygen. And because of the shape and the lack of oxygen, it makes them very sticky. So hydration helps us like pass blood flow. Like it helps our blood flow overall. And when that blood flow is not what it should be, that creates pain. And it's typically in your joints, like where your blood vessels bend and things like that. So that, in combination with just kind of being overly stressed and not saying no to as many things
Mhm.
as I should have been saying no to, I'm now in a place where I've got to take it down like a notch. And thankfully, February break is coming up. So this is
Thank
like
goodness.
perfectly timed. I can hold on for 2 more days. But yeah, this is what it looks like when
Mhm.
you don't take care of yourself. And that is in the figurative term as well as the literal.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying then is that it is self-care clearly is not selfish, because if you're not even doing the things that you need to do to keep your body healthy, then you are not able to live out your purpose. You are not able to serve those around you. You are not able to do your job, to help your family, to be there for the people that love you. And it is ultimately the best act of love to take care of yourself so that you can be in a state where you can give to others and pour into others, because like you said at the top, like you can't give from an empty cup.
You can't. And you're absolutely right, because I really feel like, and I don't really feel like I'm out of the woods just yet, but 2 days ago, I was just a few steps away from having to go to get treatment or go to
Mm,
the emergency room because it was the weekend. And hopefully now I'm reversing it, because I realize, okay, drink, flood yourself, drink, drink, drink.
mhm.
And I've been drinking like all day every day. So yeah, you're absolutely right, you're absolutely right. And we will dive into that. We're going to take a
Yep.
break. We'll dive into that a little bit more in the next segment, why we need self-care, the
Hmm.
top 6 benefits of self-care, so not just from the Ayana and Jenny perspective. But yeah, we'll dive into it a little bit more. So stick with us. You're listening to Two Healthy Chicks on SM Enlightenment Radio.
See you soon. All right, all right. Welcome back. You are listening to Two Healthy Chicks on SM Enlightenment Radio, and we are talking self-care. So we had an awesome discussion so far and have established that self-care is not selfish. And I thought it was pretty cool. Check out this opening line that I read in a New York Times article. Says, quote, "What's the most important lesson of pandemic life? I would argue that it's this: self-care isn't selfish." End quote. So that was an article by Tara Parker Pope. So it's a really good article that she wrote in early January of this year. So just go ahead and take a look at it. It goes on to talk about self-care isn't just about you, but it's about loved ones in our community. So I just thought that was really apropos to what we are talking about. And so we are diving into why we need self-care. And Ayana, you started off really well with this conversation already for us at the end of the last segment, just talking about like very serious health conditions that we have, or we may know we have, or we may not even know we have, right? And just the importance of taking care of our bodies and taking care of ourselves, like we were saying, to be able to pour into other people. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us. And it's interesting because I feel like my experience mirrors your experience as well, just in a different way, a different disease. But I definitely had the mindset like, oh, self-care is, just a luxury and it would be nice if I had the time to do that or whatever. But really have learned that no, it is a necessity after learning that I have an autoimmune disease. And one of the big things to help care for it is to reduce stress and to get rest. Two
Mhm.
things I don't do very
Sounds
well.
familiar. Mhm.
And I remember a couple years ago, I did a lot of research. I was reading a lot of books and just had very prescribed things I needed to do. And one of them was being very, very conscientious about lowering the stress in my life, and getting the sleep I needed. And that was difficult. I mean, that's like we're talking shutting down everything. Nope, you are not getting that help. I am going to bed, and I'm doing relaxing things, and I need to do this to lower my stress. And it can be a really hard thing. And if you're not all out focused on it, it's hard to carve out the time to do or the intentionality to do it, right?
Yeah, I think that it's really difficult more so now than let's say, a generation ago, maybe 2 generations ago. You just we know we are all learning how impactful stress is
Mm,
to our systems, to like our physical health, emotional health. But I think a lot of it really goes to our society and the fact like we are
mm,
always on. We're
mm,
always on. We can speak from the perspective of moms, and that's not to exclude anyone else, but that's who we are.
right.
You're on for work, you're on for your business, you're on for your children, you're on for your like family in
Hmm.
general. Um, and especially if work is taking so much of that day, like how many hours out of the 18 hours that you're awake are you at work? For me, it's more than half. So
Hmm.
where does everybody else fall in? And how do you make that fit in? And it makes it so difficult to actually focus on yourself because you're like, okay, I can get this done while I'm doing this, while I'm
Mm.
doing this. And it's just at some point, it just becomes ridiculous. And
Yeah.
listening to what you were saying and thinking about what I was saying at the end of the last segment, I'm wondering if what I'm doing, like I was saying, just what not taking care of yourself looks like, that actually I think falls into my bucket of self management. I'm not
Mm.
managing myself as well as I should be right now, let alone getting to exactly, I need to check in with myself. But
Yes.
let alone getting to the point of self-care. And no,
Yeah.
it's not a luxury. And I used to think the same way. I absolutely used to think that that
Mhm.
was a luxury. Like, oh, a massage, that's
Yeah.
luxurious. I can't fit that in. No, it's a
Yeah.
necessity. Mhm. Agree.
Definitely. No, no, I think it's great. And we definitely have we so we have we've done a lot of talking about our personal experiences. So let's look at some things that are documented benefits of
Mhm.
self-care that I think we would all agree, and some of them might be kind of surprising to see what we have. But the first one is better productivity. So when you can learn how to say no to things, so we talked about that a little bit earlier, right? About
Mhm. Mhm.
just saying yes to only the things that are serve you best and fit into your purpose best. But when you can learn to say no to things that overextend you and start making time for things that matter more, you slow down life to in a wonderful way, right? So it brings your goals into sharper focus and helps you concentrate on what you're doing. So just the overall, just you can be more productive, you can focus better.
Yeah, definitely. Better physical health. I mean, obviously, that's like a theme for me tonight, but similar to what I've already discussed about my own health, with better self-care often comes fewer colds, cases of the flu, and upset stomachs, less stress, a better immune system. It all definitely helps you feel more physically able and strong inside out. So yeah, those seven pillars of self-care are super important.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about the physical health, right? In a lot of our episodes that we've been talking about. So the third one then is enhanced self-esteem. So, and I think this goes hand in hand with what we are talking about self-awareness too. But when you can regularly carve out time that's only about being good to yourself and meeting your own needs, you send a positive message to your subconscious. And specifically, you treat yourself like you matter and that you have intrinsic value. So, this can go a long way towards discouraging negative self talk and your critical inner voice. And we're going to talk more about that later as well when we have a whole list of all kinds of things of what self care can look like. But this is one of the things that is produced from doing the self care is enhancing your self esteem.
Yep. And the next item is increased self knowledge. So, this also goes to the self awareness that you were talking about earlier in the show. But practicing self care requires thinking about what you really love to do. So, the exercise of figuring out what makes you feel passionate and inspired can actually help you understand yourself a lot better. Sometimes this can even spark a change in a career or a reprioritization of previously abandoned hobbies. So it helps you figure out self management, self
Mhm.
care. Which one is it? Let me do both.
Love it. Yeah. And then the next one is that you have more to give. And so I love that this is coming up yet again in our conversation tonight. We started it off on the very top about this. Like, when you're good to yourself, you might think that you're being selfish, but we have very well established. If you are still thinking that self care is a selfish thing, I don't know how you've been listening and still think that, because in truth, it gives you the resources that you do need to be compassionate to others. And I also think, we talked about in the other one, giving a good message to yourself. I also think it gives a good message to your family, specifically as an example, as again, speaking as a mother to my children, that the importance that it is to be able to prioritize your health and yourself so that you can be able to give to others.
Absolutely. Next is improved resistance to disease. So, there is evidence that most self care activities activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the PNS, What this means is that your body goes into a restful, rejuvenating mode, helping to fortify its immune system. I think that speaks for itself, and it speaks volumes.
Hmm. I love it. So those top six benefits of self-care were from the lawofattraction.com. So just really, really good. A lot of great resources out there. And so let's talk now about what self-care looks like. And so we were saying at the top that, it might look different depending on who you are, what you think about it. So we already talked about a lot of things about that. But let's go into very specific things like so if you're just like, okay, I can't think of anything that I would do for self-care,
We're
we're going to
here
give
to
you
help
some
you.
things. We've got a lot of things on the list. We do not have time to go through all of them, but we're just going to highlight, a good number of them.
Mhm.
So let's see here. Shall we start with let's start with go for a walk or a run, because the walking thing has got to come in at some point because we all know how much I love to walk. But I have to say, like, I think there it is. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you, Doc. So,
This
yes,
is
there
gonna
we
be
are
like
walking.
our, this is gonna be our mascot of the show eventually. And if you
For
don't know
those
what
who,
we're talking about, you've gotta watch us. Like, you've gotta go to the YouTube channel and watch it on SM Enlightenment TV. But
that's right.
yeah, going for a walk, this seems to be like a theme over our last 3 episodes, and I'm with you there. Going for a walk, before this challenge and before being motivated by money, if you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to the last episode. I would often, in much better weather, go out for a walk just to gotta step away. I gotta step
Mhm.
away, listen to some music, chill out, relax. Absolutely. Another one is read.
Mm.
I'm trying to do more and more of it. I've always been the person that's like, read one book. Don't start another until you finish this one. And with
Mm.
that, then I'm like, okay, it's been 2 months. I haven't finished this book. I can't start another one. Now I've relaxed a little bit, and I think I'm in the middle of 4 books right now. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of keeping all the thoughts together. It's like, wait, what was that from? So I'm happy that I relaxed that a little bit because now I can read more. So yeah, it is very calming. I try to do it at night. I do it in the morning. Like, I'll read my Bible plans in the morning, try to set myself
Mhm.
up for the day. So
Love
yeah,
it.
I love that one.
So that's so funny because I used to be that way too. Like, oh, one book, I can't muddle my mind. I'm in the middle of at least 4 books right now. Like, I just like, I have one on my
At
nightstand. I
least.
have one. Oh yeah, at least I don't even know why, but it just is what it is. So yeah, but I definitely agree with the reading. Yeah. And it's just interesting that somehow I am able to compartmentalize that, but I have never been good about um knowing or remembering who quoted something or what book I read that in or what. I've never been good at that.
I've
But I
noticed
remember
that.
things.
Like,
Yeah.
earlier in this segment, I mean, earlier in this show, I noticed how, like, you were just recalling things and the books and the authors. I'm like, okay, Jenny, all right, that's you.
But when you're
Mhm.
reading a lot, the whole leaders are readers. So it's good for lots of things. But yeah, so I definitely concur with the reading. So kind of along that same theme, the next one is keep a journal. Here's another one on the same theme. I have so many journals. So many journals, and then I'll find one like, oh, I never finished that or whatever. But I think it's helpful to have journals for different things. But if you don't journal, maybe starting with one thing. And I think a simple one is just even like a gratitude journal.
Yeah,
Just write
I like
down
that.
what you're grateful. It doesn't even need to be complete sentences, or just write down your thoughts, like just what you're feeling. And then just sometimes it just helps to just get things out of my brain and onto paper.
Yeah, I like that, a gratitude journal. Color is another one. So we have 54. We're
Ooh.
not going through 54.
Yeah,
Relax.
no.
But it will be available and we'll tell you how. But color, that I never would have thought. I would say prior to like 5 years ago, I never thought
Mm,
that I would say as an adult, coloring is something that's huge for me, but it's also very personal. So my last employer, they were phenomenal.
mm.
they sent a care package to the hospital when Sonny was first diagnosed. And inside,
Wow.
it was a huge box of stuff too, like all
Amazing.
kinds of things for me, for him, teas,
Oh,
all kinds of, it was just very
so
thoughtful. I'll
thoughtful.
never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. And inside were a number of adult coloring books and a number of sets of gel pens. Like, it wasn't just one little
Aw.
measly pack of 8. Like, it was everything. Gel,
Wow.
glitter, like, you name it, neon.
Wow.
We had all of them. And that became our thing. So when we would
Mm,
have to pack up and head to New York to Sloan for a few days or stay at Yale for a few days, we
mm.
made sure whatever was in that bag, the books and the pens were in there. If we didn't have anything
That's
else, we had the
awesome.
books and the pens. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's definitely, and the reason I found out later, the reason that adult coloring is so calming is because it is so intricate. It makes you focus. Like, you don't have a choice but to focus on it. So when you
Ah.
see like these other coloring books with like these larger pictures and you can just color everything, anything, that's not really going to help if you're using it for that purpose. But because the lines are
Ah.
so tiny and there's so much to color, you don't have a choice. You got to black everything out, and it's like it's game changing.
Interesting. Well, and that's also fascinating too, because at one of my jobs, we would have department meetings and we'd come together, and there was one woman that would sit there and with her crayons and color just during the meeting. And so it was just, a relaxing and focused technique, and just, yeah, so that's really interesting. And that was kind of before this all got really big about adult
Yeah.
coloring books. So all right. So our next one, deep muscle relaxation. So this, I put this, maybe it's in a different thing. I put this in the same category as like massage as well. But this was something that again, kind of that whole luxury mindset thing that I always thought like, oh, that's, just a luxury thing. But then finding that I needed that for my body to be able to function and to be able to relieve the stress. And so this is definitely, it helps your body work better. It helps all your organs function better. So that's a huge one on my list.
Yeah, another one is take a shower or a bath. This is a favorite of
Hmm.
mine. Like, I haven't
Yes.
done it in quite some time, but
Hmm.
anytime I can just get into the tub and chill and do nothing, like, I usually make an event of it, a glass of wine,
Nice.
some crackers, some berries, maybe some cheese. I don't know. Maybe dairy-free
Love it.
cheese now.
Yes. That's
I have
awesome.
done a mask in the tub, but I don't like to get out of the tub, so then your mask is on your face too
That's
long,
true.
so that didn't work out
Yeah,
for me.
that is true. And the next one might be our last one that we can do. The challenging negative self-talk. I thought this was an awesome one to have on the list.
Yeah, this one is intriguing. Like, I don't do it. I don't challenge the negative self-talk, and I've been learning
Mhm.
about this over the past like week or two. And one of my friends, it makes me think of one of my friends who constantly will say, "What did you just say to yourself? What did you just call yourself?" And I could only think of her as I'm learning this over the past week or so, and it makes me think of Dare to Dream. I
Mhm.
remember the book and
Yes,
the
good
author,
book. Yes.
Dr. Tom Barrett. Hey.
Nice. Hey,
All right. I'm sharpening my
yes.
skills
Look
here,
at
so you pay
you.
me no attention, people. But yes, so in his book, Dare to Dream, he talks about how our self-talk, our internal dialogue is at a rate of 700 words per minute. Like, that was
Crazy.
mind-blowing. It's
Crazy.
just think about it. You can't listen to something. I don't think you can listen to something like
I
an audiobook at 700
mhm.
words per minute. You would never understand. So just think, how much are you talking to yourself and what are you saying?
Mm,
So I am learning to challenge negative self-talk more. Definitely.
yeah.
After
I
learning that, yeah.
and I think it's awesome because I used to think I was a pretty positive person until I started listening to my self-talk and the things I
Ditto.
tell myself, and I'm like, "Oh." And do you remember, we just heard, yeah, Dana was telling us that Randy Gage was saying that, And this is someone that has written books, all kinds of books, and talked about this, and is very good at what he does and very accomplished. And when he got to like 50-50 in his self-talk of, 50% being,
Positive.
positive, 50% negative, it's like, that's pretty good. It's like, wow, I have a
Yeah.
long way to go. Yes.
So it's time for our big
So,
news. You know what?
yes.
You share it. Go for it.
Ooh, okay. All right. So we have a brand new Facebook group and it's called Two Healthy Chicks. So the number two, not the word, not spelled out, but the number two Healthy
Share
Chicks.
our name.
Yep. So it's a VIP group. So this is where if you want to have the insider scoop and you want to find out what the two healthy chicks are doing and talking about and want to come join our Facebook community that we are building there, come on over. We would love to have you. So definitely check us out.
Yeah, this is where a lot of our resources are going to be. So, like this list of 54 things that we set, like this is
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to find it,
Yes.
articles, etc. So, we actually have something for you. So, this is your mission, should you choose to accept. It
Yes.
actually is 2 steps. I guess we're kind of leaning on the number 2 today. Anyway, the first one is to claim your reason. So you're going to go to our Facebook group and claim your reason why self-care is vital and necessary. And secondly, what self-care activity do you guarantee to yourself for this week? Tell us
Yes.
about it in our Facebook group. Come join the community of amazing women and men like yourself who are taking steps to put in healthy habits little by little in our lives. Again, Two Healthy Chicks, the number 2 on Facebook. We are building a supportive, fun community. So come join us.
I love it. That's awesome. So now
Yeah.
it's time for our APOD, our Arbonne product of the day. And so we had to give you something to be able to help with the self-care. So it is the Rescue and Renew line. This line is just so fabulous. We've got fabulous goodies in this line. It includes everything you need for a perfect, relaxing spa day. Spa has been the word that coming up a lot throughout this show. So I think that everything smells like a European spa. It is just a spa. It just
Agreed.
smells so good. And it actually helps to promote a sense of balance between the mind, body, and skin. So I think that's pretty cool because it's grounded in Ayurvedic principles. So what Ayurvedic principles are is it's an ancient health and wellness practice based on the flow of energy in the body. So it's pretty amazing. And the Rescue and Renew line has luxurious formulas, including turmeric root extract, dandelion extract, and ginger root oil, which all help to detoxify the body by cleansing the impurities out and creating radiant, healthy skin. So I think that's pretty awesome, right? I mean, you're
Yeah,
detoxing your skin,
definitely.
you smell good, you're so relaxed. So it's a win-win situation. So what's in the set? So we have an awesome detox body scrub, delightful bath salts, a body wash, a face mask, and my fave, the detox body oil.
Really? I like the gratitude essential oil. Oh, love it.
Well,
Love it.
so it's different, the essential oil, but the
Is it the
body
blend?
oil is like you put it on your skin. And so you
Mhm.
put that on first, and then you can put the lotion on after, or the gelée. The gelée is really
Mhm.
awesome. So
I like to
definitely
add
check
the
them out.
essential oil to my
Oh,
lotion.
add
But,
it to it.
mhm.
Gotcha. Yes. Oh, that's pretty super awesome to do too. So that is our APOD, the Rescue and Renew line. Definitely check it out. So now it's time for our random fact.
Go for it.
Okay, so it's funny. We were talking about going for a walk, and it just made me think like everyone is getting puppies right now. It's like the thing. But I'm telling you, as much as I love dogs and puppies, we are resisting the whole get a puppy during COVID movement. So we are staying petless.
Yeah, I don't have that urge. Sorry, I can't, connect there. I get it, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah.
So my random topic is I had a snake when I
Ooh.
was in college.
Like as a pet on purpose?
Yes, on purpose.
Oh,
Like,
girl.
I actually purchased a
Mm.
snake,
Ooh.
and yeah, I used to
Mm-mm.
buy, like, what snakes eat, we'll just leave it at that. I used to do
Okay.
that once or twice a week, and it was a ball python, and she was gorgeous. I
Wow.
don't know what made me do it, but yeah.
Wow.
Random topic.
There you have it.
Everyone, thank you again for listening to us. We hope that you got a lot of information. Hope you had some fun with us tonight. We are Two Healthy Chicks. I'm Ayana.
And I'm Jenny.
Thank you so much for listening to us on SM Enlightenment Radio. Have a great whatever night, day, morning,
Good
whenever
night.
you're listening.
That's right. Bye.